Hey, brothers and sisters, I wanted to come on here, and the reason I haven't uploaded in a few days is because I've been working on this four-part series that is coming out this week, and today is the first video of this series. And the reason why I wanted to come on here and do this series is because a lot of people are confused on salvation through the Old Testament, the times of Jesus, and there's even people that's confused about it today, how salvation is today, and the tribulation. So we're going to cover all of that in separate videos here. So this being the first installment of this series. So in the Old Testament, there were many types and shadows of the crucifixion to come of Christ. And with that, it starts with, Adam and Eve was being the first type and shadow. Then Cain and Abel. Cain being that he offered to God the fruits of his labor. And Abel just offered up his firstborn of his flock and sacrificed it on the altar. And God was not pleased and did not accept Cain's offer, the fruit of his labor. He accepted Abel's offer, the sacrifice. It's all about the blood. But let me tell you this. Paul references Genesis chapter 15, verse 6, when God was talking to Abraham, saying, "Look up, for your descendants shall be as numerous as the stars." And in verse 6, it says that Abraham believed in the Lord and that he counted it to him for righteousness. So righteousness came by faith. Never once was it of works. People always say, well, yeah, didn't they have to sacrifice in the Old Testament for the covering of sins? Well, let me tell you this. There's different times and different eras in the Old Testament. But the thing is, it was always by the shedding of blood to have that sin covering. But it was always through faith in God alone. Because let me tell you this, nobody died when they died, when the Old Testament saints died, they didn't go to heaven. We find that referenced in the time of Lazarus, when Lazarus told a testimony. It was when it was given a testimony of a man named Lazarus, and he went to Abraham's bosom, and he saw this gap into this man. There was a man like in hell, but there was just like this big gap in between where Abraham's bosom is and hell. And that's where the Old Testament saints went at that time. It wasn't until after the cross, I believe, that the Old Testament saints went into paradise, went into heaven out of Abraham's bosom, because Jesus paid the sin debt once and for all for our past, present, and future sins. And so with that, that's where the Old Testament saints went. But back then, it was prophesied of a Savior to come. It was prophesied that there would come of one that was promised of God. And the prophets foretold of this Savior, the one to come to save his people from their sins. Where we find that is Matthew chapter 2. Because the prophets prophesied of where this Christ child was going to be born. So the prophets foretold of a Christ, a Messiah to come, and was going to be born to save his people from their sins. So they were looking forward towards the cross, because the prophets foretold that there would come a Christ child. So there are people that are teaching that, in the Old Testament, that it was by their works. Well, if it was by their works, then that's saying that we can perfect ourselves in the flesh. Because the people in the Old Testament were just as much as sinners as the people in today's time. Because look at Abraham. I mean, Abraham was a liar. Several times he went to Egypt pretending that Sarah was his sister and lied to Pharaoh. Then you got Noah. Noah was a drunkard on the ark. After he came off the ark, he got drunk. Lot. Everybody knows what happened with Lot. David was an adulterous murderer. But what I'm saying is, these people were imperfect, but God still used them. Why? Because they still believed and trusted in God. That's what was counted unto them for righteousness' sake, because they believed and trusted in God and not their works. They're not righteous by their good deeds, by their actions. Because if that was the case, then that's saying there's a capability for man to perfect themselves in the flesh. And that is not how it works. If there was a way that we can perfect ourselves in the flesh, then there would have been no need for a Savior. There would have been no need for sacrifices. There would have been no need for anything else. Because it's not by their works that they were saved. I mean, David, for instance, did all these things, but yet God saw favor in David. He still called David a man after his own heart. Well, that's because David trusted the Lord. Despite all these things that he did, he still trusted the Lord. So it was always by faith in God, faith in the one that was promised to come. They looked towards the cross. And we're going to get into, the times of Jesus, and we're going to get into to present time, Paul's ministry in present time, and then we're going to get into the tribulation. But one thing I just wanted to make sure is that people understood that even in the Old Testament, they didn't get saved by their works. Nowhere in the Bible were people saved by their works. Because if that was so, that would leave room for boasting for everyone. Meaning, let's put it this way. We get to heaven, and you see people of old in the Old Testament, they will sit there and say, well, they got to heaven by their works because they were the most faithful of God. No. It was always by faith. Because let me tell you this, if it was by works, then God is allowing the people of old in the Old Testament to be puffed up in pride because they earned their salvation by what they did. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 4 says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. It's by faith alone. So the Old Testament saints looked towards the cross and not at themselves, nor did they work to earn their salvation, nor did they do anything to earn or keep their salvation. It was always by their faith. Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. Noah was righteous in his generation. Why? Because he believed God. He trusted in God. While the rest of the world was in this wickedness, and it just made God sorry that he created man, but he found favor in Noah. Why? Because he was righteous, because he believed God. And that's what it was. is always by faith. So, brothers and sisters, I love you all. Have an awesome rest of your day, and God bless.